so that the students know from the beginning where this is going to go, which is also an important part of the difference that this project makes in terms of you're producing this for a national audience of your peers, of adults who will take notice. It's a different way of approaching media production. So in the piece from the Florida Middle School, you see that girl talking, and you're kind of like, oh, she's going to be 30 one day, and how is she going to feel about that? I mean, we covered that all with her family. They saw the final part. Sometimes it can be a little, uncomfortable. The principal, when he saw the piece, was like, okay, can you put in that, we're making progress on our violence statistics. And, at first you're kind of like, oh, the principal's asking something. But he was right, and so they included it in the piece. And there's a funny story, which you can see if you go to the Tampa Bay Times story, where the principal comes into the classroom and he says, who worked on that piece, that PBS NewsHour piece? And the kids are kind of looking around, and he's like, that was really good, and then he kind of left. So there is that, a discomfort zone, but that's what good journalism is. I think that's what pushes forward the learning with this project, the real life lessons, the importance of it in terms of having students be able to tell their real stories and have that be to a real audience and have that be so much different than what else goes on in the classroom with your tests and your papers and your other learning experiences.
And I think that's another part of the value of having professional mentors in the classroom too, alongside. And I know one of Gil's groups last year did a story about the DREAM Act, and they found a student at Austin High School who had been brought to this country by her parents when she was an infant. She was not documented. She was a very good student. She was, had ambitions to go to college, and they interviewed her about the very real challenges she was going to face and the opportunities she wasn't going to have as a result. And we discussed it with Leah. We discussed it as mentors. We discussed it with Gil. Her parents signed off on it. She signed off on it. But we chose to identify her by her first name only, and they shot her in silhouette. And that was how they chose to approach it. And so there are lots, and those are conversations. I mean, it's one of many, many conversations we have as mentors ongoing, and not just when you're interviewing students, but it's how do you identify yourself? I mean, one of the things we do early in the process is we say, when you call these people, you need to explain who you are, what you're doing, where you're from, and exactly where this ends up. And that's part of every single conversation you have with every single subject, every single source.
It's a huge lesson making a phone call. And that sounds kind of like, just call them. And that's how like adults think, well, give them a call. Like, how do I call? Can I just text, it's like, okay, hi, we have a little script for them. Hi, I'm Max from the PBS NewsHour. And their first one's kind of shaky, but then they get it, and they're doing it, while they're getting a drink of water. Hey, this is Max from NewsHour. Hey, wondering if you could come in. But yeah, the mentor is knowing all that stuff on the other side of it is a